Welcome to the latest episode of Voices of Fostering, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by somebody from the National Fostering Group today. Hello, Zach.
Hello, Helen. Thank you very much for having me here.
Oh, thanks so much, Zach. So you're a training team leader. So you're going to tell us all about, what you do with prospective foster carers. Is that right? And the training that they receive?
Yeah, that's correct. And I feel like we could probably go on for about 2 hours over this, but it's lovely to be here and just talk about everything that we do, just around the training that we've got for prospective foster carers, and foster carers already part of the group.
Yeah. So what does it involve, and what does your job involve?
So my job involves working with all of our agencies across the UK. So I think we're up in the 30s now, aren't we? Which is absolutely lovely to have, and work with them to see what kind of face-to-face training that they need, what kind of solutions they need in terms of virtual training as well, and making sure we've got a full kind of roster of virtual training happening around for all of our trainers, and really mixing that with the e-learning as well. So giving people that blended option, and it's working with those agencies, working with them and making sure we're getting everyone compliant, but also we're going a bit further than that and really making sure that we're giving people some really fun experiences, which I'm sure we'll talk about later in the session.
So when you say training, Zach, do you essentially mean like teaching people how to look after children? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, really, yes. It starts off like that, very much from our sort of prospective foster carers coming in, and with our foundations to foster, giving them those, I don't want to say basic skills because they're not basic skills at all, but giving them a real introduction to what fostering is, all the way through to looking into some quite advanced therapeutic parenting progresses, all the way looking through with using technology, making sure that we're getting those, like I say, those safeguarding courses there, but also working all the way through to looking after foster carers' mental well-being, making sure that we're looking after both theirs and their children's mental well-being, because it is that sort of connection that we really need there in training.
Yeah, so the training that prospective foster carers get, it's during their assessment process, isn't it? It was originally called Skills to Foster, wasn't it? And now it's changed slightly.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so last year we kind of had a look at our sort of what our prospective foster carers are coming in and what training they're having delivered to them at that point. And we realised that there was a small gap in terms of we can bring this in-house and we can make this special. So we've changed our Skills to Foster program, that a lot of prospective foster carers coming in will still receive in other organisations, but we've got Foundations to Foster now, and we absolutely love what we've put together. It is a more personal and it ticks a lot more boxes for what prospective foster carers need and want. And we worked a lot with our prospective foster carers saying, what do you need coming into the world of fostering? And we've really kind of explored that, turned it into a 3-day course effectively, where the first 2 days are delivered by our team, our learning and talent team, and going over all the basic principles of what fostering is, all the way through to safer caring principles, and all the way working through to that 3rd day, which is actually taking place at their local agencies. They're getting to meet a supervisor, social worker, a team manager. They're getting to meet the agencies. They're getting to meet other foster carers coming in as well, and building up those networks. So it's a 3-day course, 2 days delivered by L&T, our learning and talent team, and then that 1 day delivered by those local staff and local agencies. And it's worked really, really well. The feedback's been brilliant so far.
Yeah, so what sort of skills does this equip foster carers with?
It starts with sort of the basic of what foster care is itself. It goes through to safer caring principles, what their training and development will look like after this original course as well. And then it goes through to attachment, child development, talk about care for children that may have some form of trauma as well, and what their behaviour looks like there, and also sets them forward looking at working with birth families, working about their own self-care, and that's a massive part, and also looking at the law around everything, delegated authority, as well as what their record keeping needs to be, like the benefits of fostering, most importantly as well, for not just the child but for themselves as well. So it covers so much in those 3 days, but also at a really nice pace where there's interactive parts of the session as well, where they get a chance to talk, to really build up their networks, because I think that's a massive part of what our training really achieves, is that it's not just inputting you with new skills there, you're also getting to meet other foster carers and go on a journey with them.
And the Foundations to Foster, Zach, is something that you would take part in ahead of being approved, ahead of your panel. Is there training ongoing after that? So after you've been approved, you've got children and young people in your care, do you continue to have training?
100%, and that very much is just the start, which we absolutely love. And there's training, I feel, about everything imaginable, whether it's our e-learning content, which people can really take place in their spare time and any time that they may have. And that's the beauty of our e-learning content, is we're developing it alongside even AI now, which is really, really exciting for the future. But it's really just the start of the foundation to foster. But we go on to, our core courses, from safeguarding to de-escalation to really working with our advanced therapeutic parenting now, and we've got a whole suite of training around our therapeutic parenting. And like I say, I feel that the sky's the limit for what we're offering at the minute.
Yeah, so I've heard a little bit about therapeutic parenting in the past. For anybody who's maybe not aware, what is that and what is the course?
Yeah, I mean, therapeutic parenting is a concept that we really have as our golden thread, really, and it's showing that, a lot of people say, well, what do you need those skills really to be a parent as such? And it's much more complex than that. It's working with children that in a trauma-informed way, and that's what really therapeutic parenting is making sure that we're looking after our children in the right way, and maybe looking at what they've gone through before. So we've got effectively a three-step program, shall we say, now, in terms of looking at our therapeutic parenting, where when they first join, they'll take part in an introduction to therapeutic parenting, understanding some of the processes and how it is indeed different to maybe parenting a birth child. Then looking at a foundation level part of the course, which is been accredited now by the British Psychological Association, which is absolutely wonderful to have that extra bit of CPD for our foster carers. And that in turn is looking at many different concepts through attachment at a slightly higher level than it's looked at in the introduction. And now we've got our advanced therapeutic parenting now being piloted over the next few weeks, which is really exciting, which are 3.5-hour sessions. There's, I believe, 7 modules of that, where there's 8 modules of the intermediate, the foundation level. So overall, there's hours and hours worth of content. I feel like we're almost, days worth of content now in that whole therapeutic parenting suite of training that we're offering, which is lovely to see.
And what sort of feedback do you get from people, Zach? Because I imagine maybe for people who've had their own children and then they go on to foster and they think, oh, wow, this is amazing. I'm literally being taught how to be a parent. And, most people have children and there's no rule book, is there? There's no guidebook about how to do it. So, this is really useful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And it's looking at ourselves as well in that, which is a massive part of it that I love doing whenever I've trained the course myself. And even when I first joined the organisation, being part of the course itself, it was great that you do have to look inward. You have to look at your own self-reflection.
Yeah.
And making sure you're looking after yourself is a big part of this, because it is adding that level of trauma on top of actual parenting, which, like you say, Helen, there isn't a guidebook for. And the beauty of our therapeutic parenting courses is that it very much offers you that. We know every child is different. We're not telling you that you need to sit here and do this and do that. It's very much, these are theories, these are models that have been proven over many different years, but also we're in the real world as well. And we know that it can be very, very hard in dealing with challenging behaviour and looking at it as an iceberg theory, as I always say, and as many models say, where we're seeing 10% of what's going on inside a young child's or a young person's brain, and we're having to make those split-second decisions, it feels like, on how we deal with escalating behaviour, whatever that may be. And it really is a nice course, and the discussion on it and the feedback of it from our foster carers is that they absolutely love doing it and love meeting new people on the courses as well.
Yeah, and you've been working with some quite new technologies. Is it right that there's VR now that you can use? Is that right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, and that's a recent offering that we've recently partnered with Answer, who are an incredible company that have developed a lot of material working around especially child trauma. But it's something now we've got, I think we've got 12 headsets at the minute, which will soon hopefully be increasing to quite a few more, so our trainers can cover a whole lot more of territory across the UK. But effectively, we are showcasing VR technology. We are putting you in the eyes of some young children, some young people. They're fictionalized scenarios, but yeah, in terms of empathy and communication, it brings you into there. And I must say, the first time I used it, I took them off, and like I say, you need 5-10 minutes because they are so real in terms of the scenarios they put you in. But we felt as a training tool, it just adds that extra level of empathy, that extra level of connection for our foster carers, that they are seeing some of the things that our children have been through. As much as it is fictionalized, it's an immersive experience, or one that we're like I say, I feel we've hit a lot of our agencies with that already, and so many of our foster carers have come away, and the feedback's been just tremendous around that in terms of adding it as an extra level of our training, and it's something that we're excited to keep exploring. There's so many different subjects you can explore in there, from like I say, gangs. There's a whole sort of ordeal where you follow it through the eyes of a young lad who's being groomed into almost a trap house situation in terms of grooming. Like there's child sexual exploitation ones, there's abuse, and how that can really, and how that trauma can stay with a child. It's hard hitting stuff, but it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that does sound amazing, because, I've done VR, but like sort of, different type of VR where you're like floating around in space or something.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's really realistic. But I've never really thought before that obviously you can use VR for some really quite serious subjects as well, can't you? And to educate people, like, that's incredible.
No, and that's a massive part of it. Like I say, I've used it before playing games, seeing sort of family members when they've got it on playing, the racing games and everything, and it's a bit motion sickness style, isn't it, with that? But we feel with these ones, it's just an incredible way of enhancing our training in terms of you are in the eyes of a child. We've had so many people that a common thing is, I can completely understand the behaviour now that maybe a child that they're looking after or fostering has gone through, because it really connects with the human emotion, and it adds on to our training massively through that.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about you, Zach, because, what's the reason that you decided to work in fostering? You've got quite a personal connection to it, really, haven't you?
Yeah. My dad, growing up, I didn't obviously know a lot about it, but my dad grew up in the 50s and 60s. I'm from Norfolk, and he grew up in rural Norfolk in the 50s and 60s in children's homes, in foster placements, and I always say, as much as I don't know the full story there, I'm a lot closer to my dad now than I was when I was growing up, and can talk about these things now. But it was very much, he didn't see the best of it. He didn't see, and I always say to a lot of our foster carers, I wish my dad would have, been placed with you growing up, because it's incredible what our foster carers do. And there wasn't. It was a different time, wasn't it? The 50s and 60s. There wasn't any safeguarding training. There wasn't any VR training and understanding of that. And yeah, my dad definitely didn't see the best of it in these places, and it's taken to a point now, and that's why I say I love our therapeutic parenting program so much personally, because I use it on my dad, and I therapeutically parent my dad, who's in his mid to late 70s now, which shows how, like I say, versatile it really is. But it's something I'm so passionate about, and something that, like I say, I thank every single foster carer that we have for what they do, because they're superheroes, and they are changing young people's lives. And it's something I say every training session that I deliver, take a step back and maybe look about 2 years when that child came into your home and see where they are now, because it's hard to, isn't it? We're busy people, and foster carers especially are very busy people. But yeah, personally, I absolutely love what I do, and I love seeing the change that training can really have on our foster carers' lives.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying there, Zach, as well, because on recent episodes of the podcast, we have talked about how education is so much better now. The fact that we're doing this podcast and we're talking openly about fostering and about children in care. As you say, years ago in the 50s, when your dad was younger, it wasn't spoken about. There was a massive stigma around it. And now we're breaking that down. And the fact that you can do that for your father, who's in his 70s, that must feel pretty incredible.
Yeah, 100%, and it's definitely helped my connection with him, and we're a lot closer now than we ever have been before, and it's absolutely wonderful to know that, I'm going into that job, and maybe there's a child out there who won't have to go through what my dad did when I'm younger, because of training education. And it's incredible to see, and incredible what we're doing here with the podcast with yourself, Helen, to change that stigma, because there's still so many myths out there. I was doing a training session yesterday, and we were talking about how can we, like I say, talk to the general public more about what fostering is, and it's wonderful what you're doing with this podcast. It's wonderful, what we're doing as an organisation in trying to break down those myths and that stigma that's still out there, definitely in the UK. But we're in a different place now, aren't we? It's getting a lot better, which is wonderful to see.
Yeah, so if anybody was watching or listening who were maybe thinking about being a foster carer, and, they're probably thinking, I'm not going to know what I'm doing, will they help me? Will they support me? Will they teach me things? What would you say to them? Absolutely yes.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. We've got thousands of hours of content worth taking in, whether that is e-learning, whether that's face-to-face in your local agencies, because we still know that that face-to-face aspect is still so key, and it's one that people want, and we love delivering that, as well as that virtual online where you can just open your computer now and really just enhance everything, and it's absolutely great to see. But yeah, we will look after you, and we promise you that as a learning and talent team. Any training that you lead, we're always looking to be one step ahead of that and evolve our training delivery, and we've got a wonderful team around us that really will work no ends in terms of making sure that you are looked after your support. And even if you're coming from a position where you may not know what fostering even is, what it's all about, we'll start you off slowly, and we can support you every step of the way.
Zach, it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Helen. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to get involved in the conversation, we would love to hear your questions. Maybe there's something you'd really like to ask about fostering. Get in touch. You can email us on podcast@nfa.co.uk.